I always believed that those things I read in old books about Africa when I was a boy no longer existed. I don't mean only huge herds of animals on vast plains, but especially the customs and traditions of natural tribes. I've been forever attracted by the wild sound of drums, the hunter's spears, straw huts, and the mysterious spirits of the jungle. Can I really believe that they are gone? My inner voice tells me to keep on searching. You either come to detest Africa or fall in love with her. Africa is a blend of many races and indigenous cultures. Every place is different from the next. I've been there 7 times. I've seen a lot of poverty, as well as the spontaneous joys of life there. However, one of my dreams has remained unfulfilled. A dream that has haunted me since I was a boy. To come across tribes of dwarf people living deep in the African jungle. Information about natural pygmies is, at best, rare. Lack of huntable food, logging in the jungle, and war have all expelled them from their natural habitat. The last place where I might come across natural pygmies is in the deep jungle of the Congo. The internet shows worrying information. Blanket extermination and rape are the words that are most commonly related to this country. Some 5 million native inhabitants are the victims of cruel massacres. Paradoxically, immense natural resources that are so essential to our world and located mainly in the Congo are the source of this tragedy. This is why I have cast aside the idea of traveling to that part of Africa countless times. However, I finally decided to give it a try through the Central African Republic. The internet seems not to exist in a country which has been ravaged by numerous military overthrows. But I am lucky and succeeded in getting in touch with a government officer, Nobel, who promises to provide a vehicle. From the initial team of 4, there are only 2 of us who set off for Central Africa, Paulo and myself. Nobel picked us up at the airport. While driving us, he explains that we must never go out on our own. When I try to take a picture of women preparing fish, he warns us firmly that photographing and filming is punishable with a jail sentence. It is prohibited by the regime. Nobel must have bribed all of the guards at the airport, as we are able to avoid lengthy and troublesome inspections of our baggage containing cameras. There's not much you can find out about the Central African Republic. Yet, it is a beautiful country scattered with natural formations, inhabited by interesting ethnic groups and wild animals native to the region. Nobel, who is trying to get our permits for the journey to meet the Pygmies, brings news of increasing violence and a new wave of arrests. He's not ready to take the risk for our sake. And so, all of a sudden, he pretends he doesn't know us. We don't want to believe that this should be the end of our trip. Despair is usually the source of desperate action. Thus, we try to come up with a plan of our own. We are trying to go south, to approach the border with the Congo via a new route. We will find the tribal Pygmies on our own. We meet soldiers wearing different uniforms every 10 kilometers. Different parts of the country are controlled by different armies. Our driver gives us an idea of the reality. Laws? Forget them. There's only one rule in this country: subordinate to survive. The soldiers are primitive and illiterate. No problem. All they need is a submachine gun and a uniform. That's the law here. And beware of them. A single evil eye or a sign of dissent will put an end to your trip. You will disappear without a trace. It seems that no car has driven the length of this road for a long time. The driver's confidence fades slowly away. He's wondering why on earth we want to see the Pygmies, since in his eyes, and actually in the eyes of most Africans, they are just inferior creatures and jungle apes. There's no way the driver wants to enter a Pygmy village. In an arrogant manner, he reports to the tribal chief that we are looking for dwarves who don't wear t-shirts and make their living by hunting and picking wild fruits. He collects his fee and leaves. At once, without even asking for anything, some liana-woven backpacks appear next to our baggage. The chief selects our guides. We badly need to learn a couple of words in their language. I draw different animals in the sand and write the words in my notepad. We seem to gain their confidence gradually. Our porters' names are Mukutu, Usinga, and Usuma. It is Usuma who appears to be their natural leader. Deep inside of myself, I started believing that our new plan may work. Suddenly, while making the way for us, Usuma is bitten by a snake. From the other porters' reactions, we gather that the situation is bad. While we're inspecting the snake, Usuma compresses his veins with a liana. Mukutu vanishes in the jungle. He has to find a plant that will prevent the effect of poison. Usuma chews a handful of plants without hesitation and sups water from a liana that is at hand. Now our spirits, drowning in our sweat, were lowered. It will be all our fault if Usama dies of the bite. Africans, who are typically superstitious, will blame us of having upset jungle demons by merely coming. Thus our trip might come to a quick and painful end. We arrive in an abandoned village. I want to take some pictures. The resentful porters hold me back. It's because soldiers have shot a pygmy dead here recently. The relatives buried the dead in the village, which they abandoned then. They will never come back because a spell has been cast on it for good. We aren't allowed to enter the village either. I don't think the Central African soldiers are likely to penetrate so deep into the jungle. It might have been rebels hiding away. I check our position. We found ourselves in the Congo unwillingly. We have no ID cards, no documents or permits. We have nothing on us. Whatever happens, nobody knows where we are. Actually, I hope our anonymity lasts until we get back to the Central African Republic. We know that we will probably never get back to this place. The decision is risky, yet we go on. We follow the children's prattle that leads us to half-naked pygmy women. Astonished hunters appear at once. Although I am a non-smoker, I have cigarettes with me on every expedition. They are the best means of making friends in critical situations. They open the imaginary doors to other worlds. A storm is approaching, and Usuma tries to negotiate whether they can provide us with some shelter in the village. The chief, Unlavi, has to discuss it with his men first. Eventually, he agrees. People have hidden themselves from us. We can feel their timidity. Surprisingly, they don't know the word pygmy. The name originates in Greek and means as tall as up to the elbow. They have a nicer word to call themselves, ba, which means people. In order to break the ice, I again take out something that is so much reprobated by our advanced civilization. The chief of the tribe asks his wife to fetch a pygmy lighter, which they carry with them whenever they set off through the jungle. It is only thanks to this smoldering piece of wood that man could venture to migrate from Africa to other places across our planet. Naturally, the chief is the one who has the main say. We don't understand a word of what he is saying, so we substitute speech for gestures and drawings in the crumbly soil. Then I take out a couple of bags of salt. I feel untold joy when the chief consents to our staying with them by accepting the gifts.
Ditongi. Dama. Kikiriki.
Nakele.
Nakele. Nakele. Ja.
Mabele.
Mabele.
Mabele. Mabele.
Mabele.
To? To jest srdco. Srdce mabele.
Mabele.
Mabele. Lembo? Lembo?
Lembo.
Lembo. Láska. Lembo.
Lembo.
Mile.
Mili.
Congo.
Congo.
Bukaya.
Bukia.
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 The loyal Usuma is suggesting something I haven't dared to hope for. We have been invited to collect honey. The path mirrors the size of the smallest people on Earth. We have to bend over and trot after them in order to keep their pace. The pygmies keep breaking the branches of low bushes. It's actually their way of marking the way for others, but also for themselves in order to find the way back more easily. Usuma lights a fire under a huge tree. Wild bees have built their nest in the tree's crown some 50 meters above the ground. The chief has to chase demons from around the tree to guarantee a successful collection. The youngest honey collector winds his arm around a thin rope made from the fibers of palm leaves. They climb from one tree to another with such ease that we give them a name meaning those who walk in the trees. It's amazing to see the collectors holding on to thin branches with one hand and lifting the smoking wood and chasing the furious bees with the other. How on earth do they manage to remove honeycombs at the same time, let alone survive the quantity of painful stings they receive? There is a long time of waiting for the collector to give the sign that he has reached the nest. Now he needs the basket. The Pygmies weave it from materials the jungle offers to them. We are eager to taste the delicacy that is being carried down. There is nothing more to accomplish now, only to wish that they all descend safely. Honey is consumed together with the honeycombs. You only have to beware of angry bees hiding inside. It has a more intense taste than the types that we are used to. It constricts your throat. Tension has been in the air since early morning. The sound of drums announces bukya, that means hunting. Nets can be rolled up only by the chief or by the shaman. He will chase demons out of them and purge them of bad powers at the same time. The Pygmies' life is ruled by a number of taboos. Sexual intercourse is forbidden during the night before a hunt. A menstruating woman must not take part in rousing the game. She is not entitled to a single mouthful of the catch either, under the belief that it could affect future hunts. In the context of such bans, I am astonished when eventually the chief agrees to allow us to partake in this event. Pygmy trackers are able to recognize the slightest detail on a leaf and identify game scent. They can not only determine the age of a print and the animal that left it, but also they can tell the size of the animal, how old it is, and its sex. Men indicate something to the women, who then go into the deep jungle. Their task is to rouse game from undercover towards the nets. The hunt is performed in a circular line that may cover a perimeter of up to 5 kilometers. Meanwhile, the men sit around peacefully on stones, smoke, entertain themselves, and wait until the women drive the game closer. In order to guarantee their best performance with their spearheads, the hunters have to break the spells cast on them. Some dip them into plant poison just to be sure. The circle narrows gradually. Women seem to be successful. The chief is sure there are antelopes running towards us.
Whoa! 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 Whoa!
Some animals manage to escape, but most of them are caught in the nets. The Pygmies hunt and eat everything that moves. They caught some antelopes, a monkey, and a porcupine today. We are allowed to pick our portion from the hunt. The women offer crab, frog, worm, various plants and fruit they picked while driving game. However, we prefer boluku, antelope. You know, I would strip the skin off just like we flay rabbits. Did you see him hitting it with that spear? That was something. He made it with just a piece of pole. What tough guys they are. That's what makes the difference between us and them. The sound of drums, dumu, announces that the successful hunt is over. These tiny people delight in common moments, and it is contagious. While Paulo and I finish antelope goulash with vegetables we have been given, a man masked in bast fiber appears in the middle of the village. He personifies a jungle demon whom the village people must expel with their rites in order to lock the evil forever in the dark of the jungle. I wish it had some effect on the Congo rebels hiding in the jungle. celebration of victory over evil starts now and lasts until the early morning. The Pygmies have been nomads forever. Life in one place causes mental suffering to them. You get used to their size after you've spent some time with them. It actually seems to me as if they were my size. I realize the difference only when, with big difficulty, I crawl under a tree. You won't make me believe that the jungle, the ocean, and the sky don't belong to all people. The Pygmies share my opinion. Yet, big wood companies from the West devastate the jungle, the Pygmies' home. I saw the scenes of disaster on my way to visit the Pygmies. Italians, Japanese, Portuguese, all those who declare their will to protect the world. But reality is way different. They want to earn as much as possible by any means. Logging roads later serve missionaries who arrive to spread the word of God. In the name of civilization, the Pygmies are handed out T-shirts with the logos of the very same companies that exterminate them. And they are given, on top of these insults, a bonus in the form of shame by being labeled the most miserable creatures on the planet. Nevertheless, they are probably closer to God than anyone else. Their system hasn't changed for centuries. The women devote all their time to picking what the forest offers. They catch big snails, pick liana leaves they call cocoa, collect worms from rotten trunks, pick nuts, dig out roots and pick herbs, shells, mushrooms, and fruits I have never before seen.
Coco? Coco?
I recall what the driver called the Pygmies, primitive, inferior creatures, and jungle apes. But on the other hand, it's us who might seem primitive to them. I really doubt a civilized white man would be able to learn and recognize 3,000 plants in all their vegetation stages, including their roots, leaves, and fruits. I wonder if he would at least be able to distinguish between edible and inedible or poisonous plants. I also wonder whether he would be able to find substances efficient enough to heal various diseases, including malaria, in such a hostile environment. It's August, the time when caterpillars called mamboyo hatch from their eggs. They are extremely precious to the natives, for they represent a substantial source of proteins. The caterpillars are preserved by grilling and stored to be added later to meals as seasoning. During bad times, they may be bartered or used as a means of payment. It is amazing that these people need to accumulate no wealth except for these caterpillars. The jungle provides them daily with all that they need. We learn about more pygmy nomad tribes migrating deeper in the jungle. We are eager to find them, but departure is not an easy thing. African customs haven't changed for centuries. A wayfarer is expected to bring gifts if he wants to stay in a village. Before leaving, he's expected to offer more gifts to express his respect and thanks for hospitality. Charming documentary films about Africa certainly appear romantic to you. However, reality is completely different. You flounder through the jungle all day long without actually knowing where you're going. You are confronted by heat, insects, fatigue, the dangers of the jungle, the smell of your body, sweat, hunger, thirst, and situations that may quickly turn into tragedies. Despite all that, you often get rewarded for your effort. We see children playing in a dammed stream. We can perceive their amazement at the sight of our white skin. Their mothers bring a substantial amount of all of their food from the forest every day. They're now busy cleaning cassava root, used to prepare meals for the children. One of the women tries to tone down the situation by hitting the water with her arms to catch the kids' attention and to take their frightened eyes off our faces. Walking along the stream bed allows us to advance much faster. We see a lot of prints of animals that come to drink here. A swarm of flies and mosquitoes spoil an otherwise romantic view. Although elephants are not well sighted, their hearing and sense of smell are excellent. One of them has just scented us. We try to keep a safe distance just in case. Other porters are waiting for us in the jungle. We're not eager at all to see how they hunt for these beautiful animals. However, killing such an elephant has long since been a feat of courage for pygmy men. Only a few non-pygmies have ever been allowed to attend the hunt. Jungle elephant hunters are bound by a strange promise that they may never eat elephant meat. First, they creep towards the animal from the rear and attempt to cut a tendon of its rear leg by giving it a swift hit with an axe. Then, they follow the injured elephant, which is unable to move properly for several days. When the animal is completely weakened, they cut its trunk to make it bleed to death. Eventually, the sound of drums resounds throughout the forest to call the inhabitants from nearby villages. They perform for the fruitful hunt a great dance, and then their catch is divided quickly in order to prevent the meat from rotting in the hot climate. It seems cruel, but it helps a whole tribe to survive. We've run out of our cigarettes, so we smoke theirs. I'm sitting here among the Stone Age and realize the paradox of the riches hidden somewhere beneath our feet. Copper, gold, cobalt, coltan, hence the incessant war. Local rulers know the value which these minerals represent to our world and don't mind exchanging it for arms and power. Why not? If illegal mining of coltan is supported by the most advanced countries, our state-of-the-art technologies depend exactly on this mineral that can't be found anywhere except in the Congo. Our mobile phones, MP3 players, and laptops would not work without it. But how much humiliation and misery it takes, and how many dead. The fact that almost every single mobile phone contains minerals originating from the Congo, stained with blood, is a sorrowful finding. The porters are rushing us into an open space. We are soaked before we even get to put up our tent. Animals come to the glade too. I hope the stirred elephants won't run right over our tent, inside of which a small pool starts to form. The next day, we meet a new group of pygmies. They are picking wild bananas in the forest. We haven't eaten since the previous day because we were unable to light a fire after the heavy rain, so we are delighted when they offer us some. We have gotten used to the fact that children are usually frightened by our white skin. There are only women in the village now. The men have gone hunting. There are only 5 huts called bukumbe. The pygmy women can build them in a couple of minutes. They draw a circle in the soil with their heels and bend long sticks across it to build a structure on which they skillfully interlace banana tree leaves. The interior is furnished simply with a large piece of bark which they use to sleep on. A small fireplace in the center of the hut is emitting smoke. We put the bananas we were offered in the fireplace to grill. They taste like potatoes. All they need is a pinch of salt. The pygmies actually eat exclusively fresh food, free of any chemicals and preservatives. Men celebrate their successful hunt with a prayer. We are carried away into their simple world again. I wanted to get some sleep last night because we were celebrating with them the previous night, but the party continues tonight. I guess we have no other choice but to join them. We absorb their simple joy and happiness. I flash back home in my thoughts and imagine our world. We have found a sacred place behind the village. The Pygmies call the skulls Nkungu. It is the name for a jungle gorilla. We try to find out whether they really live here. We start our search the next day and are joined by the whole village. As we walk, I realize that man has lived on Earth for some 3 million years. He used to make his living by hunting and picking fruits, like the Pygmies do, for a substantial part of that time. We've been producing our food by farming for only a couple of recent millenniums, which is merely 1% of the total time of the existence of the humankind. Some scientists think that pygmies represent the first stage in the evolution of modern humans. However, this fact doesn't prevent the progressive disappearing of these hunters and gatherers from the planet. I remember some articles from the internet depicting Congolese soldiers hunting pygmies for their meat. They believe that by eating it, they will gain the abilities of the inhabitants of the jungle. Evidence of pygmy meat being sold on the Congolese market is dreadful. The presence of a gorilla in this place is obvious. The pygmy women are showing something to me, but I can't see anything. Suddenly, we glimpse a baby gorilla, and it is followed by another one, as if they were playing tag. I become aware of the fact that a big male protecting the troop might be around. The Pygmies never hunt gorilla. They regard it as the ruler of the jungle and venerate it with a lot of respect. We don't have even the slightest chance to survive if a male gorilla strikes us. I find myself in the middle of a troop. I want to take pictures, but it's too dark, and I'm unable to focus due to excitement. They aren't animals, but creatures. Creatures like us. Sensitive, hesitating, vulnerable. The Frenchman Duché was the first white man to have seen a gorilla with his own eyes. He was also the first man to have met pygmies. He published the accounts of his incredible expedition in 1861 in a book called Explorations and Adventures in Equatorial Africa. His discovery drew a lot of attention. The sizes of the big gorilla and the little pygmies opened new dimensions to people's imagination. The black face with marked nostrils and hairy body transformed the peaceful vegetarian ape King Kong into a monster, which has been frightening people who like to be thrilled ever since. The jungle grew suddenly dark and the sky clouded over. The Pygmies abandon picking fruits and break into a run. These superstitious people have too much respect for storms in the jungle. Although it rains every now and then, they aren't frightened by storms in an open space. But in the jungle, it is different. They believe that a man can fall ill when being soaked with rain from trees and bushes. There is no time left to put up our tent. A family invites us to their dwelling. One can see a lot of pregnant women in Africa, but pygmy women rank certainly among the most fertile. Whether in the jungle, or cooking, or dancing, they carry their children with them at all times. I realize I have hardly heard a child cry. Well, except when they see us, of course. Throughout the whole pygmy history known to us, you won't find a single hint of violence or fighting. The word war doesn't exist in their language. Any quarrels and conflicts, wishes, joys, and griefs are solved by dancing. The whole community dances. The young, the old, the sick, everybody. No one is expelled. The sense of life consists in their harmony. They are aware that seclusion kills in the jungle. What they are performing now is the dance of honey that should assure an abundance of flowers everywhere, hence enough bees as well. They know the spirits will hear them. Each dancer sings to his friend the wish to hunt a lot of game. They perform the dance of mushrooms before they collect them. They also dance for an abundance of jungle rat, fish, monkey, and for the generosity of the jungle. They dance for a sufficiency of wood to dry and smoke meat. This will allow for good storage and preservation and smoking of hunted game and will, in addition, prevent their precious meat from rotting. Dances celebrating the joy of life include the dance for birds, arguments are solved by dancing. They have dances to prevent neighbors becoming cross and to make siblings love each other. Dance is also their way of expressing their longing for love. They dance for forgiveness, to prevent children from being sad, for the chief to live long, for mothers to be fertile and to have enough milk, for virgins to become women. In a word, the repertoire includes hundreds of different dances. It has been extended with some recent dances, such as the one to prevent soldiers from stealing and raping their women. The celebration lasts until early morning. All of a sudden, Usuma rushes to us in a panic. He says we're being observed by a black man who's hiding in the trees, wearing camouflaged clothes, and he has an automatic gun. It is obvious that if we get caught by soldiers, we will never get out of the Congolese jail alive. We must get back to the Central African Republic as soon as possible. The end of our stay came abruptly. We and our porters vanish into the jungle that very night. Although I am back home, I can still hear the sound of pygmy drums in my head. Nowhere on earth have I seen people who enjoyed life, every simple thing and every single day so spontaneously. I feel like we have left a part of us with them and brought something from their world with us. I think that their energy has been absorbed into us. Sure, there's water whenever I turn a tap on. There's light when I flick a switch on. I merely open my fridge when I wish to eat. But I am sure about one thing. If I could exchange all this for only one single day spent in the equatorial jungle among those miniature giants of the deep forest, I wouldn't hesitate for a second. Their rare world is diminishing. It will most probably soon cease to exist.